So, thank you for joining us all today. My name's Alastair Sharp. I'm presenting today with John Wirtala, David Robbins. We're all part of the Customer Experience and Engineering team within the eDiscovery product group. And we're here to talk today about the new user experience for eDiscovery and the retirement of Classic. So just as an opening starter, we would like to ask you to take a survey at the end of our session today. Just helps us understand areas for improvement, as well as some feedback around the eDiscovery experience. We'll be presenting this link at the end of the webinar as well, but we'd love for you guys to take part in the survey and share some insights with us. So in terms of today's session, our focus in this session is going to be on the E3 customer experience with the new unified Purview eDiscovery UX, where we'll be looking to discuss the changes and functionality in the new experience and give you a little bit of insight in terms of how to move your eDiscovery workflows today from content search and eDiscovery standard to the new unified Purview eDiscovery UX. We will be running a future session, which will be focusing on the E5 experience specifically, but that date will follow. And today we're going to kind of cover off areas such as content search and case settings, eDiscovery case creation and search, direct export, and eDiscovery hold. And one of the reasons we are wanting to focus today on the E3 workflows is related to a message center post as listed there. This went up last week, and it was communicating that as of the 26th of May 2025, we will be retiring the following features from the Microsoft Purview Portal. So that will include classic content search, and classic eDiscovery standard within the classic eDiscovery sections of the portal today. And we also will be retiring a couple of PowerShell parameters. So the new compliance search action, get, and the equivalent get and set commandlets, all around the export parameter on those commandlets. The thing to note is that eDiscovery Premium will still be visible in the classic experience after May 26th. That is still aligning towards the August dates. And in terms of the PowerShell commandlets, other commandlets other than the ones listed there will continue to be supported as well. So let's jump into the eDiscovery experience in the new Purview portal. So for those of you who have become familiar with the new Purview portal, so purview.microsoft.com, we can access eDiscovery in a couple of ways. We can either pivot in through the solutions window, view all solutions on the right-hand side of the screen there, or we can use the solutions button on the left-hand menu there. And if you've been recently using eDiscovery, it will appear on the left-hand nav bar as well. So this is once you've selected the eDiscovery solution, it takes you through to the new unified case view. So from here, we're presented a view of all our eDiscovery cases, and this includes the eDiscovery standard and premium cases we've created within the classic experiences. But instead of having them separated out into separate sections, it's now presented as a single unified case view. As you can see on the left-hand side, there is a section titled Classic eDiscovery, where you will find the Classic Content Search, eDiscovery Standard Classic, and eDiscovery Premium Classic. And within this interface here, we can click on Create Case to build a new case, or we can use the drop-down arrow next to that to create a search, which not only allows you to create a new case, but it also allows you to create a new search at the same time, allowing you to jump straight into defining your search. Just a couple of things to note. If you're operating in a mixed license model, so you have E3 and E5, all cases will be created as premium by default. or with the premium features enabled by default, but you can update that within the case settings, which we'll demonstrate later in this session. And we also have the option to choose content search, which I'm going to hand over to David, and he'll talk you through the content search components.
And thank you very much. So what I want to talk to you about today is the changes coming to the world of content search within the Purview Portal. So with the new modern user experience content search, there are two different ways of accessing your content searches. The first one is through, if you want to go back to the previous slide here. Sorry. The first one is through the content search shortcut that you see over on the left. That will take you directly to your content searches. And next is by going to the cases under the new modern user experience and selecting the content search case. So one thing I want to call out here that is important is that with the unified experience in the modern user experience for eDiscovery, we have made some changes to basically help you control who has access to your content searches. So we do that through case settings and permissions. So first, when you go into the new content search, which John is showing you here, you're going to notice that it does look slightly different. And one thing I do want to immediately call out is the fact that we now have the ability to set holds within the new content search. So as you can see here highlighted, you'll see the ability to create hold policies. But what if you do not want to have that ability to set hold policies within the new modern content search? So John, if you want to go to the next slide. You'll see that you can adjust your permissions to remove that ability to place holds. So if you're looking for a similar experience you had in the classic content search, where you just simply have search and export, you can do that through modifying permissions. And let's talk about permissions real quick. So this is within the Purview role groups under the Purview Portal. If you have the ability to modify these permissions, it does require an elevated permission set to be able to change permissions within Purview. You'll see that you can create a custom role group that you can basically control what level of access they have to content search and eDiscovery. So as you can see here with this custom role group called content search, we have taken away the ability to place holds. So that was why anyone using this particular custom role group will not have the ability to place holds within the new content search. Now, this is something very important. Let's say that you are trying to get into the new content search for the first time, and you find that you do not have access to the content search. Well, one of our big priorities with the new content search is to control who has access to those content searches. So when it comes to the new content search, you may have to add your custom role group into content search. So by default, eDiscovery managers and eDiscovery administrators will have access to the new content search. But if you are using a custom role group, like what you see here, content search, you may have to add that under case settings. So John, if you want to go to the next slide. And you can access the case settings by going, if you have eDiscovery Administrator or eDiscovery Manager access, you can go under the new content search and access the case settings button in the top right. So once again, it is important. eDiscovery administrators and eDiscovery Manager automatically have access to the new content search. But once again, if you are using a custom role group, you may need to have eDiscovery Manager or eDiscovery Administrator go under case settings. Next slide, please. And adjust the permissions. So when we go under case settings, the first thing I do want to call out here is, what Alastair said earlier, that you may need to turn off the eDiscovery premium features if you're using a mixed license environment. And when you go into case settings, the first setting you're going to see here is case details. And under case details, you can change your case name, your case number, case description. So if you didn't want to have content search be the name of your content search, you could change that. But most importantly for this conversation, this is also where you go to disable those premium features. If you want to hit next here, John, I'll highlight the area right there. So if you do want to disable those premium features, you can do that by flipping that switch. And next, John, please. And as I mentioned earlier, while eDiscovery administrators and managers might automatically have access to the content search case, you may need to add custom role groups. And within the permissions and case settings, here is where you go to add either individual users and give them access to your content searches, or add a role group, a custom role group, and have the members of that custom role group and give them the ability to access content search. So permissions is a very important thing to make sure that you get access to the new content search. Okay, and next, this is also something new to the modern user experience, and that is settings that will impact your tenant-wide searches and your ability to search shared teams channels. So you need to go and configure these settings for the new content search. So if you're doing a tenant-wide search, do you want to include unlicensed on-premise and guest users? Or do you want to include inactive mailbox by checking the box to all people and groups, including departed users? And also, we want to make sure that if you do want to search for shared teams channels, that you have that box checked as well. So case settings is very important to initially set up the new content search, and you'll be using case details to enable or disable those premium features, permissions to make sure that everyone that should have access to the new content search has access to the new content search, and the data sources settings to make sure that your tenant-wide searches are including the locations that you want to do, that you want to search, and also including shared teams channels. So we'll cover some more about the search experience in the new content search and the export experience. So on that note, I will turn it back over to John.
All right, thanks, David. All right, so next, as Dave mentioned, we'll dive into case creation and how to do the new search within the unified Purview eDiscovery for the E3 set. So here again, we're back at the cases view. This is Alastair had showed us at the beginning. Within the cases view, this shows a list of all your existing cases. This allows you to search amongst those cases and create a new search or new case by clicking the Create Case button. And here, as I mentioned before, once you've created the case, you will actually put in the case name and description. This will bring you to the Create the Search. So once you've created the case, it actually brings you to the Create Search screen. One thing, as we mentioned before, from here, this is where you would go to case settings, as David demonstrated, where you could turn off if you're mixed license. You have a mixed license tenant. Here you could go and turn off the the premium section, make those permission changes and so forth. But now we've created our case. We're now on the Create Search. So once it's created, so we would get ready to create our search. We go ahead and click the Create Search button. Once that's clicked, very similar as it was when we created the case. When we create a search, it'll ask us to name the search so we can keep track of all the searches we have for each of those cases. And then once done, it brings us to the search screen. So this screen here is very similar across all of eDiscovery. As you'll see when we highlight holds, this was very similar when you go into content search. But within the search screen, what is nice is that we have one location to define both the data sources or locations we want to search, and two, it gives us a query builder to really define the conditions we want to build around our search, around those data sources. So there's no more jumping into wizards or having to go right back and forth. This lets you just really jump right in to select your searches, select your data sources, and go back and forth and modify. So again, a lot more user friendly. Once we go into the search and we're ready, we could go ahead and click on that data sources tab, as I showed before here on the very far left. We click on add data source. Actually pull up a slide out screen to the left. What the slide out screen will do is allow us to search for a person, group, or team, or enter a name and alias, email address, or exchange GUID. For SharePoint sites, OneDrive accounts, we could enter a URL or name. Again, this is a lot better than the older experience. With the new experience, this allows us to leverage eDiscovery premium abilities. So we could auto-identify OneDrive and email by name. Just have to put in the name in there. We no longer need to know a URL to identify a OneDrive or SMTP address for email, which is great. On this example here, it shows that I'm doing a search by team. So all I needed a Teams channel. So all I need to do is in the search field here, I could put in the team name, I hit search, and it gives me the options of the areas that match. So here, I could select my Teams channel and manage that. So, and as an example, on the next screen here, again, maybe I'm not looking for a Teams channel, or maybe that's part of my search, but I also need to pull in a specific user. So here I could look up that specific user by name, and then go ahead and select that user as part of my search. Now, once I've selected my data sources, I could actually at the bottom here, I could manage these sources. I could also get to this manage tab here within the data sources screen. I mean, the screen before where it shows add data sources, you can manage from there as well. But if I want to manage these sources, I could go in and I could check and determine, hey, here are all the Teams channels associated to this Teams channel. Here's all the mailbox and the sites associated to this person that I chose as far as a subject to my search. But I could determine to select or unselect if I don't want to look up the sites, if I don't want these sites to be associated with the search that I'm doing based off my criteria that I'm going to build. Or maybe I want to make sure that I just want to search the sites and not all the mailboxes. So here again, this is where I could go and determine what sites I want to be subject to my search criteria and mailboxes as well. So again, gives us that extra avenue to manage and specify. So going back to the search screen, I've selected my data sources, as you see there on the left. Now I could go ahead and, now that we have our data sources, I could go in and now use the query builder on the same page to refine our search. So what's nice is having this on the same page. Maybe I forgot to add an additional data source. I could go up to that little pencil above on the left next to data sources, or the little to manage my sources, or hit the plus to add additional data sources. So again, it's the convenience of being on one screen. But now I want to go ahead and define a search. So based off my data sources I have. So with that, I could go ahead and add conditions on here. So when adding a condition, I have a couple of options. I could go ahead and click the little down arrow here. And what this will do is this give me the most used selections, in the past that I've done. So I could quickly just, choose from the top 5 that I use. But if I want to see the entire list, if I want to expand the conditions, maybe I'm not going to use one of the ones I typically use, I could go ahead and just click on the box where it says add all conditions. And what that does is it creates another slide out. We still see our search and query screen in the background. It creates a slide out. And here I could see all the conditions. I could scroll down and choose these to, build my query. Another thing that I can do as well is, I could search through here. I could enter in the name to help me narrow down on the condition I want to add. I could also use this little left radio button area where right now I have all chosen, but maybe I just want to look at the most common. Or I could also just click on exchange mailboxes. But for this sake, let's click on the common radio button. If I click on common again, it reduces the number of conditions I have based off the radio buttons. And here again, this is where I could select the conditions of my search. One thing to note, as you see on these screens, you'll see premium, some areas grayed out that say premium. These would be conditions that are only offered through premium. And you may see this as you go through your searches or through the eDiscovery E3 or standard experience. Again, it's going to be the same experience for premium and standard, but if you're not on a premium license, it will actually have those grayed out and show you that, they'll still be there. They'll just be grayed out. All right, well, let's go to the next. So now that I've maybe chosen my condition, I went ahead and I chose type. Again, you have lots of different types of conditions to choose, but here I could actually as well select what kind of type I want. I could go ahead and I could click in the box here. Again, it's going to show me the most frequent. The one thing I want to mention though here as well is we have keywords. So say I also put in a keyword search, I put Mark 8. It no longer supports the use of operators. So with KeyQL, like content such as or, and, or near, instead customers should use, so if you want to use and, or, near within the keyword search, customers should use the KeyQL search condition instead. So after typing each keyword phrase in here, you'd want to phrase in the keyword segment, make sure we hit enter. It'll separate and put the next one. So you're not going to have to put and or, but just wanted to call that out as, this, some users or some, this may cause some confusion with folks, but again, put in the keyword, hit enter to go on to the next one. So let's go back to the type. So when I chose a type and condition, for example, again, I could click in the box. It will give me a list. If I want to see the full list of conditions, I go over there towards the end of the box and hit the pencil. If I hit the pencil, what that does, again, it generates a slide out from the left, and it gives me all the types I could choose from here. So then I could go through, I could search my name if I want, if I don't want to read through the whole list, if I kind of know what I'm looking for. But here I could go through the whole list of types and add those. So for here, example, I would hit this one, I hit instant message. Next is I want to kind of cover the KQL area. So let's go ahead and again, we're back on a search. Maybe we want to do a KQL. So here I'd hit add condition. I would choose KQL condition. In the KQL condition card, it can't be used with any other conditions. It's just going to have to be KQL. So if I have type and then I add a KQL, it will give me a prompt letting me know that existing conditions will be translated to KQL when you're just choosing KQL. So once you do that, you're not able to do other conditions. It's going to have to be in a KQL statement. But here I'd click on KQL. I could put in my syntax. It will actually, once I have the syntax ready, it's going to show it here in the KQL box for my search. Once I'm ready and I like, okay, this looks good. It shows that I don't have any errors. It's going to prompt you to and let you know if there's errors in the syntax that you built and give you suggestions to fix those errors. But once I'm ready, I can go ahead and hit run query to perform the KQL search. So right up here, I'm ready to go. I go ahead and hit run query. And once I run the query, I'm going to get additional options. Here I could choose search results, slide up and ask how I like to see my search results. And again, this run query, this is going to be similar to not just for KQL, but for the whole condition query builder. So just as an FYI. But once I've run query, I get to choose results. I could choose, I want to see statistics, maybe I want to include keywords. Maybe I did a keyword search. And what this is going to do is it's going to, once I've run the query and choosing the options I want here, it's going to give me a statistic screen and show, based off the search I did, what the results were on the statistics. So say I go ahead and run query, I've chose statistics, maybe I also ran a keyword report. So once my query is done running, So as you see at the top of your screen, you see query, and then now statistics is underlined because it's done running. It'll actually give me a summary of everything that was run. So it will show that, hey, I have 83 matches within this. It kind of lets me know that, okay, yeah, this is what I was expecting with the search. It's returning some of the information I thought based off this. It'll show me the locations that were searched, 2 out of the 6 I had on there. What data sources were done. I can see trends, and within these little windows here, if I did a keyword search here on the right too, it's at top keywords, but here I could actually, if I ran keywords, it would show statistics in that window as well. But what I could do is I could view these little windows and I could get more into these specifics, statistics here. And from these statistics as well, I could also run reports off these as well. Now I'll show that here in just a second. But again, this was going to allow me, and it's going to show all the statistics that I did off my search with the keywords, search trends, and so forth. So again, really useful. On this, I could also choose samples. So as we saw when I could go back a screen here, and you could also go here, but I could also choose samples instead of statistics. Samples is at the very bottom. I could go ahead and or select it on the query screen. So right next to statistics, you have samples here in the far left. It's kind of a little muted, but you can see it's underlined. I could choose this. It'll give me, generate a sample view. So here I could just, show me the top 10 and, sampled locations. So here I could run a query. Again, this is not going to show me every single sample that was part of my search, but it's going to give me a view into some of the samples per location, that I've searched on. So once I run that, it's going to bring me to the screen on the samples. I could actually take a look at, hey, here's some of the emails that came in. I could click on the email. It will actually show me in the source viewer here, which is great. So I can kind of, again, see what's happening here. Again, it's not going to show me all the data. It's just going to show me a sample of what was returned in the search. But again, this will give you an idea that, hey, your search is accurate. This is kind of what you're looking to go for. And then once I'm on, once I've done the search, I could also go and, I could generate statistics. I could go back and, download reports. So from here, say on the statistics or the process job that I ran on the query, I could go to the process manager. There's a little process manager button in the top right corner, where I could view case level processes or the query that I process. But here from process manager, I could select the process job that was been completed and run. I could then go and click on that to get specific. So here I generate statistics, as we saw on the previous screens. We ran a statistics. I could look at that job. I could select that from the process manager, and I could click download report. So from here I could download the report, and when I download the report, it's going to give me several different CSVs. But for example, this one we pulled up was a summary one. Again, and it's going to show us specifics on the job that I performed. So for example here, this is going to show, like say item counts, completed item counts. It's going to show me the query I ran, start and end time, any security filters applied, the case name, search name, did I retry? So it's going to give me a lot of information. There's other reports that are downloaded like locations and so forth, but this gives a lot of good information based off the jobs that you have processed. If you want to see why it returned a certain number or if there was errors, it gives you that a lot more insight to see, how those jobs are processed. So with that, I know there's a lot of information, but now that we've learned how to select the data and gone through and how those data sources are done, how we perform the searches, we're going to go ahead and now move into exporting. So once we've grabbed this information, I'll go ahead and off to David. So now we've done our search. I think we're ready to export. So David. hand it back to
So
you.
I think Alastair is going to talk about this one. So
Oh, okay, sorry, Alastair.
That's all right. I'll pick up from here. So this is an area where there will be some changes to customers in terms of the export process. So as John has demonstrated, I've ran my statistics job, done my sampling, but by the way, those are optional steps. Those are things that if you're very kind of clear in what you're wanting to export, those are no longer mandatory. We're kind of reducing the clicks. So you can skip the statistics sample generation and go straight to export. But if you do want to validate your queries returning what you expect, we can now go and do an export. Now, in this example here, we've obviously disabled the premium features of this case. So the add to review set option is grayed out, but I am able to still perform a direct export. So if we just go on to the next slide, please. So once we have selected export on the search, we give the exporter a name, and we give it a description, and then we kind of decide what we're going to include, which items we're going to include in our export. These are very similar to, well, these are exactly the same as the options that you're presented today from eDiscovery Standard. We've tidied up the wording a little bit to make it a little bit clearer. But we can choose between index items that match our search query. So only return the items that definitely had a positive hit. We could then look at indexed items that match your search query and partially indexed items. And those partially indexed items being potentially relevant to our case. So we still maybe want to capture them to investigate them as well. Or we can just choose to include the partially indexed items. Then we choose, then we go through some of these other settings. So our OneDrive and SharePoint settings, we can choose to bring down the latest version of the SharePoint or OneDrive document, or we can pull down all versions. E5 has a couple of different options. We include 110 or 100, as well as the two that you can use with E3. And as you can see there, we gray out, as John was talking about, where we are turning off the premium features, we gray out those options. But I guess the point I would make here is if you have a full E5 estate and you were using standard, there's no reason you shouldn't just leave the premium features enabled, because the workflow and the experience can be accommodated in the new UX, whether you're E3, if you're E5, you can replicate those E3 workflows. But we have in this instance disabled the premium features in the case. If you just progress a slide, please, for me, John. And so then we kind of move down. So we then look at, okay, what is the export? What do we actually want to export here? Are we just wanting the report only? So to get a list of the report of the items that match the search query, or do we want to export the items with the item report? And then we get some choices here around how we want to treat messages and email messages. We can select between creating PSD for messages, or we can create individual.msg files for messages as well. And then we have these 4 options at the bottom. So I'll walk through each of them one by one. The first one, organize data from different locations into separate folders of PSTs. So where we've targeted multiple custodians or data locations, we can choose to separate out the PSTs into separate PSTs for each mailbox, or separate folders for each OneDrive or SharePoint location. And that's what the organized data from different locations into separate folders or PST controls. So with it ticked, we split them out. With it unticked, we collapse it into either a single PST or a single folder for our OneDrive and SharePoint content. The next option enables us to include folder and path of the source. So what we mean by this is, do I want to reflect the source folder structure for that OneDrive or SharePoint site in my export package? Or maybe I just want to collapse it all in and just have it in a single folder. And from a mailbox PSD perspective, it's reflecting the folder structure in the person's mailbox. Condensing paths to fit within 259 characters. This is there to accommodate where you have potentially large file paths, because in SharePoint and OneDrive, we can have file paths that are longer than the Windows limits in terms of 259 characters. So we can optionally choose to truncate the export package and the subfolders within it to ensure that the long file paths fit under this threshold. But if you are using zip tools that can support extracting long file paths, or you're processing this export package in downstream tools, you can choose to untick that truncation. And the last option here is to give each item a friendly name. So with that text, the exported item will reflect either the email subject or the SharePoint file name in the export package. If we untick it, we'll assign a unique GUID to each item. And these options are interchangeable. Then you can select them in combinations that suit your needs. But if we were going for sort of the equivalent of loose files in PST, then we would be selecting all the options that you see on screen there. If we were looking for an equivalent of, say, condensed directory structure, we would select the create.msg files for messages and untick the 4 options there. So organize data, different locations, include folder path, condense paths, and untick give each item a friendly name. Do you want to progress to the next slide for me, John? So once we've triggered that export, we can locate the exports in a couple of locations. We can go to the export tabs within the case, and that will list all the exports that are relevant to that case for us to select and view. Note that exports in themselves, John touched on Process Manager. Process Manager is kind of relatively, well, is kind of a new concept in the new UX. It's similar to jobs. So we can actually access the exports also within the Process Manager as well. But in this instance, we've browsed to the export tab to see the job. So once we select the export itself, it will bring up a few, it'll bring up this flyout. So here we're presented with information about the export job. So that includes its name, the time it was created, when it was ran, who it was created by. We can also see the export packages at the bottom there. We can also pivot to the settings tab. So the settings tab would tell us which settings we had selected to generate this export. And I guess it's important to note here that within the new experience, all the downloads are via the browser. So we no longer use the eDiscovery PST export tool with the SASURI token to download results. Instead, you have to be, all the downloads are coming through the browser itself. So some things also to note as well. You see there in the screenshot there that we've got a reports package. So this is the job reports associated with the export. So this is where we'll find things like the items.csv file, which will tell us all the items that have been included as part of this export. It will also give us information about the settings for the export and the search conditions that were used as well. So the reports folder can be downloaded independently from the PSTs and the files that we've prepared as part of this export. As well as that, we will also see a number of other packages or export packages available for download. So all PST files will be included in a zip file called PSTs .00 star. We may have multiple folders, export packages for PSTs, depending on the size of the export. And if we had any SharePoint or OneDrive files included in our export, we would see a corresponding file called items.00 star.zip. These are 40 gig in size. So where you do have those large exports, you may see them split into 40 gig chunks. And for each individual PSD file, there's a maximum of 10 gig in size as well. So you may also see large mailboxes being split into multiple individual PSD files for that user as well. And I guess it's important to kind of touch on with this change from using the export, the eDiscovery standard export tool, and moving to the browser, it may change some of the paths that download would have been taking historically. So if you are experiencing anything around slow downloads via the browser, it's important to validate any kind of proxy or network inspection devices that the download may be coming through in your environment. So checking for any kind of bandwidth throttling that may be applied, closing of long-running HTTPS sessions, or any kind of SSL inspection that could be impacting that. The other thing to note as well, when we select the download button with multiple items selected, if you just go on to the next page for me, John, you may be prompted that that you need to disable your pop-up blocker if you're selecting multiple items. So it is possible to, this is obviously an example from a Chromium-based browser. You can simply go back, unblock it, and then repeat the activity. But if we progress to the next slide, you may want to actually just go ahead and add the purview.microsoft.com URL to your browser configuration, particularly in situations where you may be using a separate admin account for in private, and you may be using in private browsing. If you enable it time by time and in private browsing, that doesn't be preserved across sessions. So by adding it within the settings here, you can prevent those pop-ups in the future when you're trying to download multiple items at once. So simply add purview.microsoft.com into that list there. And if we go on to the next slide, another area worth kind of investigating and considering when you're looking at browser settings with the download coming direct from the browser, you should just be cognizant of how this your download setting is configured. Now, obviously, most organizations or browsers will try and download the package automatically to your downloads folder for the user. You would go into your browser settings to potentially change that if you wanted to store it in a particular location, or ensure the toggle is selected around ask me what to do with each download, so you're prompted each time on where you want to save the file. So there are a couple of useful browser settings you may want to consider as you start adopting the new experience for your workflows. And if we just browse to the next page here, this is just an example of the items.csv file that gets generated as part of that report zip. If we think about eDiscovery standard classic today, and this applies to content search exports as well, you would have a success and failures report. In the new experience, we have a single report, and within that we have the status column, which will indicate whether it was successful or whether there was an error, and if there is any appropriate errors, it will be included in the error warning field. Do note that there is some changes to the metadata, to the structure of the load file. So if you are processing your export packages downstream in another tool, please make sure that you become familiar with the formatting and the columns within the load file as well. And with that, I will hand back over to David, who will take us through holds.
Absolutely. So thank you very much, Alastair. So holds. Holds are obviously a very big component of eDiscovery. And just like with eDiscovery or classic eDiscovery standard, you'll notice that in the modern UX, we have a hold tab. So in your case, please go to the new hold tab and you can create a new policy. So John, if you want to hit next for me, and just like with eDiscovery standard, you're going to put in the name and description for your new hold policy. And then you'll get into the new hold policy view. So one thing I do want to call out, this is not the same source experience as you had in eDiscovery standard. So we will be utilizing the new enhanced data source view, like we did in the search that John showed earlier. And that does mean you're going to have a little bit more flexibility if you're an E3 customer. So for example, if you have a custodian in a case, you can now, automatically identify their OneDrive location by putting in their username or email address. So if you're looking to put both the user's mailbox on hold along with the corresponding OneDrive location, it's very easy to do in the new data source experience like John showed earlier. A couple other callouts I do want to have on this screen. Unlike what you saw earlier with the search experience, there is not an ability to place a hold tenant-wide. So you are not able to place holds across all of your users in one case. If you're looking to do that, of course, we would recommend Purview Data Lifecycle Management, which will allow you to place holds at an organization level or across all of Exchange, SharePoint, or OneDrive. But the hold in the modern UX is to be applied on a location basis and not a tenant-wide basis. So under data sources, just like in the search experience, you're going to either play the plus sign or the add sources button to select either custodians, teams, sites, Viva Engage locations, pretty much anything in Microsoft 365 to place on hold. John, if you can hit, oh, sorry, not yet. Also, I do want to call out here that you do have the ability to use query-based holds as well. So if you're not looking to put the entire location on hold, you can create a query to put a segment of the location on hold, like for example, a date range. That is also available using the modern user experience. If you leave the condition alone, if you leave the query empty, it will put the entirety of the location on hold. So if you want to put the entire user's mailbox in OneDrive on hold, you can do that by leaving the condition builder, which you see over here, segment blank. Okay, John, if you want to hit next for me. So after you've identified the locations that you want to place on hold, along with whether or not you want to use a query, the next step is to hit this apply hold button on the top right. So when you hit that, and John, if you want to the next screen, it's going to take you to a new feature within the modern UX, which is the enhanced details view. One of the big questions we get around holds in the classic solutions is, where do I go to check the status of my hold? I can see that, let's say that I'm in classic eDiscovery, either premium or standard, and I see that, my message for my hold status says on or on with errors or errors. But what's really on hold? What is that, main source of truth to understand whether or not my hold was successful? So when it came to the modern user experience, we wanted to do a better job of helping you understand what the true status is of your hold. And we have done this through this new details view. And as you can see here, what the new details view will do is it not only will give you that overall hold status, which you can kind of see over the top where it says on, but we will also show you the status of each location within this hold policy. So that means that, if one of the locations had an issue with that hold policy being applied, you can easily see which location had the issue. And also will give you all the hold statuses of every other location within the search as well, within the hold as well. And of course, this is a downloadable report, so you can download this into a CSV. And also, if you hit next for me, John, it will allow you to drill down into each location. So if you do have a location that for whatever reason, the hold was not successfully applied, you can actually drill down into that location in the new details view and get a status of that hold and learn more information about why it wasn't applied. And you can also retry the policy at a location level or even at the whole hold policy level as well. So if there is a transient error, you can retry the policy directly using the new details view. But what we wanted to do here was to give you more information around your hold within the hold policy itself and really be that one source of truth for the actual status of your hold policy. So the new details view, very excited about that. It's been very helpful in helping our customers check the hold status. And it's something that's only found in the modern user experience. So John, if you want to hit next for me. And that takes us to the end of our walkthrough of the E3 experience in the modern Purview eDiscovery, or the unified Purview eDiscovery experience. We do have a survey that was mentioned at the beginning of the call. Please take some time to fill this out. This is, just as I mentioned earlier, covering the E3 experience. We will be doing further sessions covering E5 features as well. So stay tuned for that. Make sure that you bring your questions. And if you hit the next slide, John. Here are some additional resources that can help you as well. So that includes our eDiscovery roadmap, where you can see what we are and will be working on, and also timeframes where we expect it to be released. You will see our interactive guide that we're updating that will take you through the modern user experience. It's a click-through guide. The new documentation. Get a lot of questions on whether we have documentation for the modern UX. We do, and you can access that through the following link. Also, we have our new modern user experience blog that you can go to kind of get additional information about the modern user experience and its advantages. We have an updated Ninja guide for eDiscovery, which you can access through aka.ms/eDiscoveryNinja. And also, if you are looking to learn more about the retirement of the classic solutions, please check out the blog at aka.ms/eDiscovery updates. That will give you more information around timeframes and the retirement of the classic solutions. And also you will see that information available in the Message Center post that was mentioned earlier as well. Outside of that, John, Alastair, anything else that we need to add today?
No, I think that was great, David. Thank you. Just again, just want to reiterate, we will be doing a premium E5 webinar, so stay posted to that. We'll be publishing that date shortly, like we did with this, so folks can register and also view the recording when that is complete as well.
Absolutely. So stay tuned for more on the modern UX. We have additional resources that are being released currently. So we will make sure that those become available for everyone to use. And for those who ask questions, thank you so much for your questions. I hope that we were able to answer them all, and look forward to seeing you again when we talk about our E5 solution. So thank you very much, everyone.
Great. Thank you, John, Alastair, and David, for being our guests and for sharing the great information with our community. Also, thank you to the Q&A team who helped us with answering the questions and providing the resourceful information. To all the listeners still on the line, if you're someone who wishes to aid in the protection of the world from cyber threats and desire to have a say in shaping our strategies, blueprints, and recommendations, then we invite you to become part of our security community. Together, we can make a global impact. So join us at aka.ms/security-community. This is also where you'll be notified about the upcoming webinars, events, and other announcements. For those of you who may have additional questions on the topic we just covered or other product-related questions, please feel free to raise them on our Microsoft Tech Community discussion space at aka.ms/Azure Purview Community. Thank you all for being part of our community and for joining us on these webinars. We hope to see you next time. Goodbye.
Thank you.